my wrestling background. I thought, you know what, that's been a big part of me in my life and growing up, and really helped shape me into the person I am today, The
words of new Buffalo Bills head coach Sean McDermott. While the Bills were making Super Bowl appearances in the early 90s, McDermott was becoming a two-time National Prep School wrestling champion for LaSalle College High School near Philadelphia. Since then, McDermott has had an impressive rise through the NFL coaching ranks, but he has never forgotten the impact that wrestling has had on his career and his life.
Probably about 4 or 5 years ago, springtime, every year the PR department gives us our bio, and we have to check it for accuracy and all that type of good stuff. And there was no mention of my wrestling background. And I thought, you know what, that's been a big part of me in my life and growing up, and really helped shape me into the person I am today, both on and off the field. And so I figured I should mention it in there. And really, to your question, there's a lot of life lessons you learn through wrestling, whether it's growing up around the sport or when you get older, junior high and high school wrestling. So life lessons like adversity and determination, commitment, work ethic, I think those are huge to life.
I'm not going to ask you to brag, but tell me a little bit about your high school career.
Yeah, I started off at North Penn High School, a public school outside of Philadelphia, and had what most would consider a good career there, and then transferred to LaSalle High School outside of, again, Philadelphia, and ended up being, I think, 62 or 64 and 0, and won the National Prep Championship 2 years in a row. So I'd also add, if I could brag for a second, only taken down once in 2 years. So that was my forte. I wasn't a pinner. I would just wear people out.
What was your go-to takedown?
Low single takedown. I was a quicker guy and faster guy, so I used that cardio. I like to be in good shape and kind of use my cardiovascular endurance and just, again, wear people out the low single.
Your weight class?
Believe it or not, 171. First 2 years, freshman and sophomore year, 140, 145, and then all the way up to 171, hit a growth spurt. And I was a football player as well, so it was tough to try and bring it back down to probably where it should have been.
I was going to ask you, tough cutting weight your senior year?
A little bit, not too much. I would wrestle up a little bit at 189 and then down to 171, but probably should have dropped if I was really serious about a career in college with wrestling. I probably should have dropped down.
What college opportunities did you have in wrestling?
Well, I spoke to a number of schools: Virginia, George Mason, a little bit with Penn State. That's before Penn State really came back on the map with Coach Sanderson and whatnot. But some of those schools, and just decided to go with football.
Now, I wrote an article, actually, because your high school coach was quoted as saying that when he asked you in high school about doing both sports and how tough that was, you told him football's easy, wrestling's hard.
That's right.
And I think anybody who's wrestled and played football will agree with that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, wrestling, when you go from football to wrestling season, it was always a big shock to the system because you thought you were in shape. I played both ways, quarterback, I played defensive back, did some kicking, punting, mostly punting, and I thought I was in great shape. But then when you get into the wrestling room and the wrestlers they've already started their season, at least practice-wise, I was always out of shape, and so that was always a shock to the system.
Fred Smerlis, who was a great nose tackle here for the Bills, he was a state champ, state high school wrestling champ. Right. He always told me he wished the seasons had been reversed because wrestling would have really gotten him in shape for football.
True, that's true. And more than anything, I think there's a whole lot of mental toughness, mental endurance as well that goes into wrestling, and that carries over to not only football but life as well.
I know you were impressed with the performance by Penn State at the NCAAs. I mean, who wasn't? 5 champs. Mike Zimmer from the Minnesota Vikings is a big wrestling guy. He looks for wrestlers in the draft amongst the linemen. And he once had Dan Gable come and talk to his team before a playoff game to talk about what it means to be a champion. You have access through ownership to Penn State. Have you ever thought about bringing in somebody like Cal Sanderson to talk to the team?
I have, and it's funny you mentioned that. I do have access to Cal's information, contact info, and it's actually sitting on my desk that I plan to reach out to Cal and if for nothing else, just to share leadership stories and maybe get some tips or advice on whatever sport you do. If you're good at it, you're doing something right. Just habits, and hopefully. See if Cal would agree to come and speak to us at some point.
What would you say to a high school athlete who's considering wrestling as a sport?
I would absolutely encourage any young man or woman to wrestle. Again, the life skills that you pick up through a sport, it's a team sport, but there's a lot of one-on-one time in wrestling, and I always looked at it as, what am I doing that my opponent's not doing? As I go home at night and get done my academics, get through the academic side of being a student, I would go out and run, get an extra run or lift in, just to out prepare my opponent, and so I think that's big, and it's true in life as well, that you do things to set yourself apart, habits, and we just talked as a team on the field that you have to focus on the process. This part of the year is all part of the process, and you never know what's going to set us apart from the rest of the teams in the NFL.
You said your son has dabbled in wrestling. Do you think he'll pursue it?
We'll see. We're going with the marathon, not a sprint approach. I burnt out in wrestling middle part of my career, and then I was able to hit the reset button and got back on it. And I just wanted to ease him into it, and he enjoys it as a young man. We'll see if he continues with it. Being back up in the Northeast, I'm happy that this is a wrestling hotbed, if you will, that he'll have a chance, if he wants to pursue a sport like wrestling.
We have today's Trash to Treasures. It's our first attempt at a town-wide craft show and garage sale. It's free to the residents of the town, and for the first spot, and if you wanted a second spot, you pay $25. We're hoping to make this an annual event. The weather cooperated. It's probably the best day we've had in the last 3 weeks, so I guess that's a good thing. We'll reevaluate at the end of the year, see what we have at the end of the day, see what we have to do to change it. We're always looking to tweak it, and it'll hopefully be an annual event based on what we see today. We have some of the food trucks that'll be here on our Monday night concert series. We have House of Munch, we have the Great Foodini, the Meeting Place, Salad Days, and these are also food trucks that people will see on our Monday night concert series as well. Just a little note for folks, a couple things. Well, really one big thing that we will not allow on Monday concert series that we did allow today, and it is dogs and animals. Other than service animals, we will not allow any animals on Monday night during the Monday night concert series. We didn't figure it was going to be a gigantic crowd sitting, so we thought it would be okay today. Today the entertainment was Penelope and then some joker who was playing in between sets, which was me.
So all in all, you consider this first one a success?
Absolutely, couldn't be happier.
Some kind of new game. Appling and a running, hey, skipping and a jumping. In the misty morning fog, your daddy's transistor radio. Standing in the sunlight laughing, hot and high, bring the ball. Slipping and sliding all along that Canadian Falls with you. Brown-eyed girl. Oh, you, my pretty brown-eyed girl. Oh, don't you remember when we used to sing? Sha la 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 da. Sha la 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 dee da. La dee da.
Hi, this is Cindy Abbott-Litro for Behind the Camera, and today we've got the great Mac Cappuccino is with us. But what's exciting about it, he's been in town for a couple of weeks. He is producing, directing, and he also wrote the script for Malaysia. You know, you are really a success story when kids, you know, look at, I want to be in movies, how do I do it?
Sure.
Because you really, it almost sounds like you dropped out of high school to get into
sort
film.
of. I didn't really drop out, and my mom would kill me if that went into print. So I did not drop out of high school. I got dispensation from my high school. They said it was okay.
Which was Canisius.
Yes, Canisius High School, which they allowed me to leave to, as long as I did all of my work and was back in time to do my exams, I could go. And I left, I took all of my work with me, and I went to shoot a picture called The Living Wake in Kennebunk, Maine. It was Mike O'Connell, Jesse Eisenberg, Jim Gaffigan was in that movie.
Oh, wow. And you were how old?
I was 17, I believe.
Okay.
I started as a PA. I had, I think, like my first rum and coke during production, pre-production, and I picked a fight with a guy in a poncho. That guy ended up being a key grip and gaffer on the movie. I didn't say a word for a week of production, and I worked my ass off, and he took me under his wing, and he's like, I'll teach you how to make a movie, kid. And that guy's name was Ray Flynn, and you say that name in New York City, everyone knows who that guy is. He's been a 52 lifer.
You live in New York City,
I live
right?
in New York City now, yes, but I'm sort of a mama's boy, so I come back. I take the Amtrak train in the morning. There's like a 7 a.m. train, or I think 7:05 or something like that. I hop on that, I stay up the night before, I sleep on the train, I wake up in Buffalo, I come back, see my mom.
What was it, though, that sort of captured, you know, because this has not been an easy road.
No,
I mean,
of course
it's
not.
like working hard and
No, it's
doing
not at
lots of
all.
stuff and not getting recognition for a long time.
Yeah, of course.
But finally you're doing a project of your own. What was it that keeps you with it?
I think it was from like a young age. I've been a junkie with movies, and my parents were, I mean, they had my sister and I when they were very young. They were still in school. Not in school, I think they were in their, what's it after in medicine when you're not in school, but you're not you're a doctor, but like you're kind of like low man on the totem pole.
Okay.
That, whatever that one is. And we spent a lot of times watching movies as families, just because I think for them it was the only way they could get rest and spend time with us. So we watched a lot of movies. I would watch movies on repeat all the time, and it sort of just became a thing. I mean, I saw The Godfather when I was like 9. Like, it was like one of my early memories of movies, and I was like, this is something cool here. And I just started devouring movies at like a very fast rate, as often and volume as I could. And that is sort of every day, it's that love and hatred sometimes of the process that keeps you going, right? Because it's just on, you know, any shoot, you're gonna wanna put a bullet in your head, but when you finish and you finish a good day and you look at your playback and you're like, all right, we did good work today, and you're like, that's why I'm doing this. That to me is what's
Well, you refer to your parents, and they're both, I know them, and the community knows, and the Cappuccinos, They're both amazing physicians that are definitely type A, and it seems like you've got that gene.
Some of it. Don't get me wrong. I can totally put on a Hawaiian shirt and drink pina coladas for like a day or two. And
But
let
you
that get back to it.
wrote, and you're directing and producing this film.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about it.
The movie? So the movie's sort of an absurd dark comedy, or a dramedy, I guess people would say. It's a fairly unique film in that it's structurally very different narratively than a lot of other movies, which I thought was interesting. I think, for me at least, like a lot of movies, especially in the independent scene now, kind of do fall into like the same kind of milieu. And I was like, well, if you're gonna make something, and we don't have a lot of money on this movie at all, but if you're gonna make something, if you don't have the resources, you should have at least sort of creativity in spades. And I think there's actually a freedom in having not a lot to work with, because one, your fiduciary responsibilities are low,
Yeah.
right? And because New York State's tax credit is so wonderful,
That was a good thing to say.
It relieves a little bit of the risk, and I was able to raise some money between my friends and family, and it let us take some creative risks. The way the movie's structured is very different. The way that we're shooting the movie is very different. And of course, the ending of the movie is very different.
So the crew, the cast, how do you put all this together? You're shooting in Buffalo, which is great, but I don't think people realize it's very intensive. When you're on it, you have it all planned out.
Yeah, because you sit down in the movie theater on your couch and you watch the movie, and this 100 minutes long, and that's it. And you're like, that was fun. I hope they say that. But it's been a long process. I wrote the script, probably, just to give you the short chronology of the movie. I had the idea for the script for a very long time. It started off as a sort of anthology piece of a bunch of stories that didn't overlap at all.
Wow.
And I started to think, like, how could I connect these stories? So I sat down, I kind of outlined this script in a couple days, and then I just kind of locked myself in my room, and I hammered the very, very first draft out in about 3 days. I had a working draft there, and I sent that out to some people who I trust. And originally, I was actually going to shoot this, truth be told, in the East Village in New York City. But I called the film commission, and I've talked with them a bunch, and they're super great. And said, hey, I've got this script. We've always talked about doing a movie. Why don't you give it a read, just to get their 2 cents? I mean, they're pretty smart guys. They read it. We had lunch, and they're like, well, why don't we just look around, maybe doing this in Buffalo? I said, okay, like I can see that, because in my mind, I had a bar in mind that I wanted to use and everything. And then once we sort of got in the car and sort of drove around and saw everything, it started to really open up the movie to me. It was a very closed movie before, and it really opened up the movie to me in a way that I hadn't looked at it before. It was such a local movie in my head when it was in the East Village, and when I came to Buffalo, the capacity for the movie to be universal became larger. In other words, I could use Buffalo as a every place and no place at the same time, where a large population of the country could watch this movie and be like, hey, that took place in my town, or that took place in a town that I've been to or know.
I also find it interesting that you're using what is sort of, I think you called a hybrid group.
Crew.
The crew. That's
Crew,
where. Explain
right.
that.
So my camera crew is from New York. They've done my music videos and commercials with me. They are spectacular. I love them. I can't speak highly enough of them. Just hardworking guys. But the other thing that was very important to me, especially if I was going to do the movie in Buffalo, is I really wanted to have a crew from Buffalo. It's just, one, for me personally, from being from here, but two, as a producer, it's easier to work with people who are embedded in the local community, because it's easier to source things if there's a problem. It's easier to have doors opened. It's easier to get access to equipment. If you're coming from out of town, even me as a Buffalonian, as a native, coming from New York City, if I'm talking with a guy who doesn't know me, he may be less inclined to help me than if he talks to my, UPM who's from here, or, my key grip or my gaffer from here. So it was important to work with them, and they have also just been spectacular.
Where do you envision seeing this go? You're going to be wrapping soon, and then you have to edit, you have to put it all together. Will this be an independent film that will be shown in in theaters? Will it go, to one of the networks that's out there? Will it stream? What are you going to?
It used to be such a simple system, right? It was a pipeline.
It
was a pipeline. Now it's a web.
It can be anywhere,
now
which is exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is. For my financiers who are listening, we're going to sell it the second it's done, and we'll get a return on your money and a return on your investment right away. The director and writer in me would love to take this to a festival. We are trying to have the movie finished by the end of the summer, but if I'm not willing to sacrifice all the hard work we've all put in to rush it. So if we miss a deadline for one festival, the world's a large place. I don't need to go to one festival. I don't need to make a September deadline for the festival in January just to do it. I'd rather finish the movie, and there's a bunch of wonderful festivals around the world where I'd be happy. But as the director and writer, you like to see you kind of want to go and compete with your contemporaries and see how your film fares against what else is up there. As a producer, I'll probably open up the Rolodex from my producing history and see all right, what distributors do I know? Who can I talk to who may be interested in taking the movie on? Or buying it for me right away.
Well, what we like is it's another great success story that's coming out. Much of it because of the New York State Film Credit.
Oh, absolutely.
And
That's huge for
your
us.
success, of course, is the water that you drank here in Buffalo and on Grand Island.
Yeah, of course.
But we wish you great luck with this.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for taking time to
No,
talk
are
to
you
us.
kidding me? I could do this for another hour.
Ah, that's great. And we'll see you next time on Behind the Camera.
The 2017 Ilio DiPaolo Scholarship Dinner was held in May at DiPaolo's restaurant in Blaisdell. Buffalo Bills head coach Sean McDermott, a former two-time national prep school wrestling champ, spoke to the crowd on hand and specifically to the 5 scholarship winners.
As you look at wrestling, I mean, there's a lot of questions out there right now about the future of wrestling, and I'll just add this. No matter what sport you play, wrestling has carryover effects to life.
The highlight of the night was the awarding of the Ilio DiPaolo Scholarship to Jordan McLaughlin of Olean High.
Wrestling has had a tremendous influence on my life. Started when I was in 3rd grade and I loved it, but as I grew older, the competition got tougher. And my freshman year, I had a record of 11 and 24. At that point, I had 2 paths. I could either quit and give up, or I could dedicate myself to the sport and get better. And I chose the second path. Each season I got better. Each season, off season, I worked a little harder, lifted a little more, pushed myself to become a better wrestler. And my senior season, I finally made it to the state tournament. Didn't quite reach my goal of being a state champion, but 3rd isn't nothing to be ashamed of. Wrestling has given me values that no other sport can give you. They're life values, characteristics that really translate into everything I do. I am confident that I am prepared for anything the future has to give me. I plan on continuing the work ethic and drive I have in my next journey at the United States Naval Academy. Once again, I'd like to thank the members of the board for selecting me for this prestigious award. I'd also like to thank my coaches for pushing me every day in practice, making me a better student and athlete. And I'd like to thank my parents and my brother and all my family who supported me. Thank you.
Let's take a look at the 5 scholarship winners in action.
mother. She died in 2010 of lung cancer. She was the type of person that would do anything for anybody.
Going fishing up in northern Ontario and going through the trapping lines with my grandfather on the snowmobile.
I was born in '65 and he passed in '67. It's hard because I wish I could have known him the way, you know, everyone knows their parents.
Star athlete at St. Joe's and orthopedic surgeon, just a rock star of a brother. I miss him every day.
That picture's probably the hardest to look at just because I don't see him there. I just see a shell of him.
He spent a lot of time drawing and painting. He was a really talented kid. And it's a shame that that talent was taken from us.
I had just met a guy named Mike Lezakowski.
Mike and Amy Leszakowski are two of our dearest friends.
Grew up with Mike, known Mike my whole life.
Seeing my wife fight cancer through Roswell Park Cancer Institute. When she went through her battle and seeing the good work that the folks at Roswell did, we wanted to do something to give back, and we had an idea to do a charity hockey game. Amy did, the Empire State Ride. She rode her bike from New York City to Niagara Falls to back to Buffalo over the course of a week, 550 miles or so, and they rode 90 miles a day. That's when the idea came back.
11-Day Power Play is an incredible event.
11-Day Power Play is one continuous hockey game in an attempt to break the Guinness Book of Records for the longest hockey game played, which is about 10.6 days.
We will be skating for roughly 250 plus hours.
2 teams of 20. Those teams are divided into 3 squads. And each squad will play for 4 hours on, 8 hours of rest, and then back on the ice for 4 hours.
The event, we are tying it to a charity, which is Roswell, and we are going to attempt to raise $1 million for cancer research.
Why? And I think it's because I have the ability to give back.
I want to change the future, and I want to change the future with these 39 guys. So cancer is a treatable disease.
That, in essence, is the fuel that's getting us through everything.
At the end of the day, we're trying to make a difference. This is truly unique. It's a world's record. It's a sport I love to play. I grew up playing hockey my entire life.
Playing the game I love for the people that I love, it was a perfect fit for me.